Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I'm very happy today. I'm always happy, but I've got Camille Corbett with me. Hey, Camille.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
Well, thank you for being here. The backstory is that you and I've really enjoyed our conversations. We did a Zoom Q&A.
Yes.
When The Island... Oh, so Camille is here because her film, The Island, was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2023. It was an official selection, short film horror. Took home the Programmer's Prize for exceptional filmmaking.
Thank you.
It's fucking great. Cursing is allowed, of course. And besides being just a great film, your presence was so great at the festival, I think. I mean, we had a great Q&A in person, and what can I say? And you are the ultimate multi-hyphenate, I think.
Thank you.
I think you've joked about that before. Do you want me to go for the hyphens, or do you want to list them?
Do you want me to list them all? Okay. I'm a writer, actor, director, comedian, model. Too many things, unfortunately.
I was going to name those four. I was going to do actor, writer, comedian. Oh, I was going to say actor, writer, producer.
Oh, yeah, I do
comedian, and model. Yeah. So congrats. And you do them all well.
Thank you.
And I'll add that Camille is also the kind of person, we had a screenwriting event earlier this year, and I was looking for some people to do a screenwriting panel, and you said, sure, I'd love to. And honestly, that was so great. And besides being incisive, I mean, it's fair to say you were the funniest person on the panel, too. You added some wit.
It's my favorite.
Shoot, is that too good of a segue to mention your Instagram is
the witty girl?
The wittier girl?
Yeah.
I did just mention wit.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, so that is the introduction, and should I say, so The Island was, normally I cover with people if they can watch it. You don't have it online yet, right?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do?
I have it on YouTube at The Witty Girl, but you could also watch it on the Laugh After Dark platform, and it's also on another platform, but I forgot the name of it. Soleil Space, yes.
Soleil Space.
Yeah.
And also, if people go to, are there links like on your Instagram?
On my Instagram at The Witty Girl, you can check it out there. But yeah, it's also on YouTube.
Excellent. So people can watch it. And it was a proof of concept for a feature.
Yes.
So all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's a horror comedy about a black family on vacation. It's very much giving Black Lotus.
Absolutely, and with a Wes Anderson vibe and humor, and your performance. I know if you get the feature made, you're going to change your role if you play one, right? But you got to play the Martisha, who is the
evil hotel.
Baddie.
Yeah, the evil hotel owner.
The evil hotel owner. You got to kill people.
Yes, it was fun. It's just like really hard to cast like a Caribbean actress that could do the accent. So I just cast myself. Even though I was young for the role, I thought it would just be better to have someone authentic.
For sure. And it worked. Worked great. All right. So as I warned you, this podcast, we go way back. So I mean, talk about creative. You pretty much, besides the multi-hyphenate thing, I mean, you're just covering so much ground as a creative person. So when did that start for you? What was were you just a creative kid? Were you always writing stories and performing?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I definitely was always a performer, and I was always very into reading, especially like Harry Potter. And I feel like Harry Potter is really what made me take being a creative seriously, because it was the first time I ever consumed something and just really fell into a story, and I felt like I was transported somewhere else. And it was really like true escapism. It wasn't like I was dealing with anything bad, but I just felt like there's always like a value in being able to escape. And so after reading like I think the first Harry Potter when I was 7 years old, I was just like, I need to do something like this when I grow up. I have to be someone that allows people to escape and enter new worlds. And so I think that's when I knew I wanted to be a writer. But like throughout like my childhood, like I was like in choir and stuff like that. You know, I was always performing, always into stuff like that. I was like drawing, painting, just always creating different worlds.
See, we left singer. Should we have added singer to
no.
the hyphen?
Oh yeah, I do musical comedy, so I sort of add that to like the comedy part. But yeah, I have like one musical comedy album out called Silly Bitch Music Volume 1, and there will be a Silly Bitch Volume 2 coming out very soon, like next year.
That's excellent. I love that Harry Potter inspired. I'm just curious, did it matter that J.K. Rowling was female or irrelevant? It was just the creativity?
For me, I always do think women are the better writers. I might be a little biased, specifically with writing novels, you know? I feel like the novel is something that really gave a lot of women autonomy, specifically in like the middle class in the 1800s. And so when you read novels from that time period by women, they're always amazing. But yeah, for me, I always identified being a writer as like a sort of like a female sort of thing. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized it's actually really male dominated.
It is, but I agree with you actually. I like my favorite sci-fi writer is N.K. Jemisin, a woman, you know. I like it's
mine's Octavia Butler, a woman from Pasadena.
Yeah. It's but I couldn't help but ask, I guess, you know, we have a high school senior,
wow,
who's female, and I'm always, you know, obviously I grew up in a world where young women were kind of told that they couldn't create. So I love that you were inspired so young.
Yeah, by a female writer. Yeah, I don't think it really registered to me that she was a woman. It didn't really matter who was creating the story.
And she hid it at first, right? Like
yeah,
with the
that's
initials.
why it's called JK. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, having like a male protagonist as a woman, that's like something I find like a little bit unappealing. But I have written a few male protagonists as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that we should discuss Harry Potter at length, but I feel like she did that for commercial reasons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She read the culture, but at the same time did wonderful stuff with Hermione and
yeah, I think fantasy is just very like male dominated. But people like George R. Martin, like he's so great at writing women that I feel like people are definitely like more open to like women writing fantasy and like women-led fantasy because of people like him, or like Holly Black. I'm a huge fan of her. Like people like that create amazing fantasy worlds. For some reason, I just feel like people always just assume that fantasy is like a male genre, but women love fantasy as well.
100%. And really, I mean, it was just male dominated because planet Earth was male dominated and still is, but
and it requires a certain level of education to make like a strong fantasy book, you know? Like, so some of my favorite authors that wrote fantasy, you know, they went to like Oxford, you know, or Cambridge, and like they were all friends with each other. And so it's just like a different sort of like mentality to have where you're like really steeped in research because it's all being drawn from somewhere else, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. My mind goes back. Yeah. Even in the classic era, I mean, you had Mary Shelley and other people. I mean, yeah, no one. I remember learning that Frankenstein was a woman came up with that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's so.
And it's a play on Pygmalion, you know?
Actually, I'm ignorant about that.
Pygmalion is what My Fair Lady is based off of. It's like the idea of a man. It's like a Greek mythology of like a man creating the perfect woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like Frankenstein is sort of like a fucked up version of that.
Which fucked up versions of things are always the best versions.
Yes.
For sure. All right, so, and I guess wasn't Harry Potter, you were the perfect age for the Harry Potter thing because by the way, I did read every book because my niece told me, Uncle Jeff, you're cool, but you're not really cool until you read Harry Potter.
It's real.
And so I read it, and each book like matures with Harry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you were whatever a tween, like it was more tween, like
until
the end, like he's grown up. Like what happens with those characters?
I love it. Yeah, when I was 7, I read the first one, and I think I was able to read up to 4, maybe 5. until I was like Hogwarts age. And I was like, I'm going to get a letter. Where's my Hogwarts letter? It's coming in the mail. There's no way I'm a fucking muggle. Like, I really believe that shit. But yeah, Harry Potter is really interesting because like you can really grow up with it, and it like unlike any other book that I think has existed since then, they had like those Barnes and Noble like premiere nights where kids would go and wait for the book to come out at midnight, and I would go to those. Like I went to them when I was like like a tween and teenager. I did that for the last book. I was like maybe like 16 years old, 15 years old, and I remember reading like the last book in one night. Yeah.
Wow, and that last book was long.
Yeah, dude, I was ready. My body was ready. Like, it definitely made me a voracious reader. I feel like without Harry Potter, I wouldn't have become as much of a dedicated writer because it made me such a voracious reader and such like a huge fan. I feel like if you're going to be like something, you should be a fan. Like, I hate when I talk to writers and they're like, I don't read. I'm like, well, I don't want to read your shit then because you don't know how to engage people. You don't know what people love, you know? People want to be like their worlds to be turned upside down. They just want to hear you like park and bark about a story. So for me, like I appreciate when people clearly are fans of literature, and then I read like their works and it always fucks me up.
In a good way,
yeah. In a great way, yeah. I love my world to be rocked.
Right, and I'm totally with you. When there's it always shocks me when a filmmaker's like, well, I don't really watch movies.
It's a red flag.
I'm like, well, then what you doing? Like you should be voraciously consuming film and just loving all of it. I mean, funny thing is now, like I cannot keep up because now there's like too much cinema. Like people are like, have you seen X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, I don't have, you think someone my age can get into Korean cinema? Like it just came around, a little too late. I wish I'd known, but
I recently watched this really crazy Japanese movie. It's called The Audition. And that movie was probably the most fucked up movie I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
See, now I want to see it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like I think one of the movies that like helped inspire like Kill Bill and something. It's really good. It's really crazy.
Oh, for sure.
Really weird. It's about like a dude that has an audition for like a bunch of like women to date. He's like a widower. He hasn't really been with any woman for like 12 years, and he's friends with like a movie producer, and so they audition a bunch of actresses. It's like, first of all, the first red flag is, why are you auditioning a bunch of actresses? They're all gonna be crazy. And of course he finds the craziest one, he falls in love with her, and it just goes downhill from there.
Talk about classic male fantasy.
Yeah.
My God.
That bites you in the butt. Like I love that. I love when like you're given a male fantasy and then it's like, oh, you made a big mistake not viewing women as people. And I feel like that's like a common theme in a lot of Japanese and Korean cinema. Like, it's like, oh, here's the perfect girl. Like in the movie Old Boy, it's like, here's the perfect girl. She's actually your daughter. Here's your dream woman.
For sure.
So good.
Right? All right, so when did you write your own? You were inspired by Harry Potter. Did you start writing short stories as a kid?
Yeah, so I wrote a lot of short stories as a kid. I remember the first one that impressed my family was I wrote like what it would be like to be like a pencil, and they were like, wow, this is actually engaging. Like they were like, this is pretty good. But like the first time I was ever published, I was 15 years old. And it was like honestly insane. Like I say it's insane because it's like nothing like, first of all, I don't really respect poetry that much, to be honest. And so it was a poem about Jesus dying on the cross, and it was like a transcendental style. So it was like, what were his thoughts like about him? Because he's like dying kind of. So he's like looking up down on himself while also like being on the cross. Like, what would that feel like? And I was like in a pretentious mood at the time. So I like wrote some title. I don't even remember what the title was because I put it in Google Translate Latin and made it Latin just because I was like, that's what I need to do. It's a transcendental poem. It needs to fit the vibes. And yeah, I got published. So that's the first thing I ever published.
You know, if you're not a little pretentious at 15, you're not trying hard enough,
Yeah.
right? Because like at 15, that's that wonderful age where like your mind is so open, but you don't know a goddamn thing yet.
That was the vibes.
You gotta be pursuing it. Just trying.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And choir and stuff. Any acting as a kid or not
I did
so much?
theater
You did
and
theater?
like improv. But I started theater and improv when I was like 15 too. So I feel like that's truly when I became like serious as a creative.
So like for around like early high school.
Yeah. That's when I started to take myself seriously as a creative, mainly because this is kind of sad, but like my dad, he was like very much like someone that would always push me to like focus on like sports and stuff because he was like an NFL player. And I was never really interested in that, but I was always very naturally athletic, like casually, just like always the best at everything. And once he died, I was able to do what I actually was passionate about, which is like, you know, being a creative, like being a writer, being like an actress, you know, stuff like that. And I feel like it's like unfortunate, but like as he was dying, we definitely had a lot of contention with that because he was like, he had less control over me. So I was doing whatever I wanted. And I like, we would always fight over like the things that I was doing. Like I remember my first play that I was in, like one time I went to a rehearsal and he was like, you're not going to go to that. And I was like, I am. And he was like, I will call the cops on you if you leave right now. And I left. And then he actually did. It was crazy because he was like, he couldn't physically keep me there, you know? And I was like, peace out. Bye, Dad.
I can't help but ask, like, what did he say? Did he pretend you were running away or something?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure it's legal for a kid to go to
no, the cops were just
rehearsal.
like, listen to your dad, I guess. Like, I hope they fined him. I hope he had to pay a fine for that, but yeah.
I'm sorry to hear he passed. when you
Yeah,
were
it's
young.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's
but
tough.
yeah, I definitely think that if he hadn't, I wouldn't have been able to like really pursue what I wanted to pursue at the level that I wanted to pursue it at an early age.
I hear you. Boy, I would share something from my partner's life, but this ain't about my partner.
I'm dead.
So acting at that age, did you just fall in love with it?
Yeah, I loved it. Because it's like writing a character and being them is one thing, but then to personify them is a whole other thing. And I really enjoyed like both aspects of it. Like, especially like with improv, you could be inanimate objects. You can be whatever you wanted. And like for me, that just opened up a new level of creativity that I had not had access to previously. And I really dived deep after that. Like really deep. It was really fun.
And actually, I kept forgetting to ask, but where did you grow up?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
And you didn't have to move around much because sometimes, oh, that's cool. So
No.
because obviously your dad's career, he might have been moved around, but
No, he was retired by then.
oh, retired. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's why he had so much time to be in my business.
Oh, retired dad. That is
Yeah.
that can be a book someday.
Yeah, he was retired and like he had children before me. Like there was 11-year age gap between me and like my closest in age sibling. And because of that, I felt like it was like a redo for him, you know, because he could just focus just on me, like lucky me.
And anything with the 26-year-old, he didn't. It's like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
focus on this is my last shot to make a perfect one.
Yeah, no, literally. So he was obsessed with that for sure.
And he must have obviously as an athlete, so he loved all your natural athleticism. But
Yeah.
but you had other skills.
Yeah. Also, I have a heart murmur. Like, and he did too. He just worked past it because he grew up in abject poverty. His dad was a sharecropper. I did not grow up with a sharecropper dad in the middle of the country in North Carolina. So I did not need to do that. I had access to a computer. I was a National Merit Scholar. I didn't need like an athletic scholarship. You know what I mean? We were living very different lives. Like the limitations that he had for himself were just not applicable to me at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he must have been super proud, I would assume, in spite of, you know what I mean? Just super proud, even to have given you such opportunities, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was very proud of that for sure, that he was able to give me opportunities. And he was very proud that I was good at athletics, like because it was like very random, you know? It was just like he just forced me to like join sports teams and then I'd just magically be the best. I was like a freshman.
It's tough. It's tough for dads. It's tough for, by the way, always tougher for moms, I think. I always got to add that.
Yeah.
Needless to say. But
my dad definitely was like my mom. He took on the mom responsibility, like everything. Like he told me how to dress, how to be a woman. Like he had his own perspective on that for sure.
that's the fact that he had retired, right? Yeah.
I was his little project.
And he didn't start a business in retirement.
No, he did.
Oh, he did.
So I worked with him on his business too.
Oh, that must have been wonderful too.
Yeah, it was bonding. Yeah, we hung out a lot.
Excellent. All right, so you were poem published at 15 in Latin.
Yeah.
Which kicks ass.
Well, not in Latin, just the title was Latin.
Oh, the title is Google Translate.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Not the entire thing.
And I pictured the whole thing, but, shame on me for
I'm dead.
Getting it wrong. But, and then when did you start thinking about, more throughout high school? Anything significant, or is college like the next big step where
I was like a National Merit Scholar, I just like focused on academics,
Yeah, so you focused on, because like when you're young, that's like your job is to do well in school.
So yeah, I was like one of those people that got like $1 million worth of scholarships and stuff because, I was really good at school. And because I knew like as an artist, in order for people to take you seriously, you have to be kind of smart. Like, people don't realize that. They think that they can just, like, be an artist. It's like you need ethos behind you, and I had, like, a whole plan. But I also never thought that I was going to be, like, a full-time artist. That's, like, another thing. So I thought I would go into politics, and, like, I would, like, write books on the side. I didn't really understand, like, you could make money as an artist, like a livable wage. Until I went to college. And so I went to the University of Alabama because they paid me to go there. And like, in order to go into politics, you sort of have to be around like controversial things so you can like be in the news and sort of build your career from there. So I thought Alabama was the perfect place for that to happen. And it was. Fucked up shit did happen, but by the time that happened, I was already on the other side of things. Like I'd already jumped into being like an artist, so I just like covered it for like my school's paper and stuff like that. I was like head of digital media at the University of Alabama, so I covered it that way. But yeah, I took one semester of like political science classes. I got 100 in all the classes, but by the time I was done, I was like, I'm done. Because I was like arguing with people over things that were facts. I could not argue with people over facts. Like, I didn't realize how insane it would be to be in a college filled with Republicans that don't even know why they are Republican. Like, I get like anyone can have any political affiliation that they want, but at least be informed as to why. Like, I always assumed that when people were Republican, they had a good reason. But just being something without any substantial facts is not okay. You have to be able to back up your belief system. And because I was dealing with that, I could not do it. I was done. And it wasn't like I was in lower level classes because I took a bunch of AP classes in high school. So I was like with juniors, seniors in classes, and they couldn't explain their own political beliefs. And I was like, this cannot be my career. Like, this cannot be my life, explaining facts to people. And like now that I'm older and I've seen like how politics plays out, that is the job. You are literally just saying, this is the fact. And Republicans are like, no, it's not. It's like, okay, then tell me what the true facts are then.
I mean, you were early to this game. You saw where the culture was going early because, I was, by the way, I have two questions. One is, were you drawn to politics as a younger person, sort of like with a mission, like to make the world better?
Yes.
And okay.
Literally, I thought that the world could be better, and I was just like, maybe people just need to explain things better to them. I think I could do that. Like I was like in Model UN and stuff like that. I'd always do really well doing stuff like that. I won a bunch of oratorical competitions. Like I remember winning the Martin Luther King oratorical competition in Atlanta. I got to be on the MLK parade, which was really cool to do in Atlanta, because he's from there. So for me, I always thought, okay, they just need someone strong that could like explain things to them and they'll be fine. Because I saw like Obama get elected and I was like, he seemed like someone that could just explain things to people, but like I realized like as throughout his presidency he was not getting anything done really. He was just like a symbol. And I was just like, it seems kind of futile. Maybe I can change things better a little bit better through art, and at least I'll have my sanity. I'm not like just explaining things to people that like they know, like maybe they don't even know that they're facts, but they don't care that they're facts. They'd rather just have their opinion. And like arguing with people over immigration, when it's like, for a fact that the United States would be in a population decline if we didn't have immigrants, but you're saying we need to like close borders.
And population decline equals economic decline.
Yes.
If you have
and
any brains at all.
Civilization decline.
Yes.
It's literally a marker of a civilization descending. Like, so for me, I was just like, what are you guys talking about? You guys don't want America to grow. You want it to collapse under what? White supremacy? Like you're going to die. You're going to kill a whole country just because you want to be white. That's, and like, not only that, when the markers of whiteness are constantly changing, like Irish people weren't considered white. That changed. Like, you know what I mean? Now there's a thing called like white Latinos. Like that didn't exist before. Like if you were like Cuban, you weren't white. Like, so it's just like the markers of whiteness are always changing. So it's like, don't worry about keeping the country white. You'll figure it out. You'll gerrymander a way to consider people white.
They do move those goalposts as
Yeah.
needed. It always struck me, you're talking about, and I guess there's people on all sides of the spectrum. I don't know why I'm trying to be politically correct. There's a fucking election next week.
Yeah.
That's for those who, and this
Partake.
podcast, I think this podcast will come out the Thursday after the election. Maybe
Wow.
we'll know by then. Maybe we won't.
It'll probably be Kamala.
I'm praying, but
I don't think it'll be Trump.
But I was going to say that, like, a lot of them, it's like rooting for a sports team.
Yeah.
They're like, my dad rooted for the Yankees, so I root for the Yankees.
It's stupid.
And you're like, why are you a Yankee fan? I'm like, because that's what my family does, And it's like,
But it's different.
Why, and you were saying, why are you Republican? My dad was a Republican. And it's like, well, and then it's always funny when you bring up, I was always that jerk who would be like, well, how do you feel about, pollution? Should it be legal for someone to dump dangerous chemicals that end up in coming out of the faucet of your sink? No, that should be illegal. I'm like, okay. Well, then it sounds like you want the EPA to exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you bring up abortion, and often, like, most Republicans are like, no, I want
Have
my
had
kid.
abortions.
My kid wants. My kid needs one. I want my kid to have one.
Yeah. It's just illogical. They just don't want it to apply to like everyone. I feel like the problem with the United States is that we're so different that people don't want socialism. So in countries where everyone is homogenous, they are down for socialism because everyone is similar to them. But because of like the level of immigration that there is in the United States, how big of a melting pot we are, people do not like the idea of socialism, even though it's clear that it is needed.
I'm with you. And I think, well, an observation of mine, I don't have proof, but an observation of mine is it also depends like where you grew up. If it was a multicultural place, Like I grew up, I never lived in an all-white school. Like, I grew up in L.A. where all my friends were we were just multicultural and end of story. And
Same.
And when in my first marriage, I went to Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, and my sister-in-law took us to a mall, and even the mall was divided. Like, there were levels of the mall that everyone was white and parts of the mall where everyone was black, and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, Alabama's a weird place.
It's a weird place, but like...
It's like the 1950s.
Like, the people who don't like, and I'm doing air quotes, others, are the people who haven't met any.
Yeah.
Like, if you grew up with, it was very funny because I had a group of Jeffs when I was, and I was the Jewish Jeff, there was a white Jeff, there was a Filipino Jeff, there was a Korean Jeff, there was a black Jeff, and what was the sixth Jeff? Shit. Okay, I'm sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. Japanese.
That's tight.
And it was like, and we were all Jeffs, so it was kind of cute.
Funny.
We wanted, but we didn't play enough instruments to be a band, but we were going to be in a band called Jeff. But like, it was just, whatever. So that thankfully immunized me from being one of those people who are like, I don't want other, whatever. We're dealing with it in this current election.
Yeah,
this
I know.
idea that there's others getting free stuff, and I'm not. I'm like, they're getting mistreated, and you're not.
Yeah, white people are confusing to me because like they'll like treat like blonde people different. Like what? That's confusing. Like y'all are all the same.
Isn't that the? I remember one of the most impactful things of the many things that Dave Chappelle always talked about. Dave Chappelle pointed out when he said white people will call other white people trash.
Yeah.
And like, how ugly is that? And yet now the people who get that label are like rooting for a billionaire who
would
considers
call
them trash.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, has zero respect for them.
Yeah, it's like you think he would drink out the same glass as you? Like if you went to Mar-a-Lago and he found out that you drink from that same glass, even though someone washed it, do you think he would drink from there? There's no fucking way.
And do you think the tax cuts he's proposing will affect you at all? No. What he actually wants to do is lower your minimum wage so that the corporation you work for is more profitable. Yeah, it doesn't none of it checks out.
Yeah, he's insane.
I know. So we're living in the post-fact world.
I'm crying.
Motherfucker. All right. But we're talking about your creativity. So
yeah, when I was at Bama, I immediately quit studying politics, and I ended up making an interdisciplinary degree with New College, which is like a section of Bama, and it was dramatic writing and directing. And so I went through the theater and film and English department and like radio, and I just did it all.
Right, so they let you create a
degree.
I love colleges that allow that.
Yeah, well, it has to have like an interdisciplinary like aspect to it. So in retrospect, I wish I had known about. There were entire colleges that do that, like Brown, I think. It's all like interdisciplinary. Everyone makes their own degree. I would have probably applied to a place like that. But because I was there, I was like, I'm going to stay here because I just knew I could graduate early. I came in with a lot of AP credits, and I wanted to graduate when I was 20, and I was able to do that. So I just like switched over. And then I ended up studying abroad half of my time at Bama, and I went to Oxford. That was the first place I went, and it was amazing. I studied Shakespeare and British Lit. And it was like a life-changing experience because, like, again, I'm a huge fan of fantasy. I'm a huge fan of, like, literature in general. And to just be in the places that inspired so many great pieces of literature was insane to me. Like, the college I stayed at, Worcester College, was where, like, Alice in Wonderland was inspired from. So it was, like, cool to, like, just, like, walk through the tunnel that inspired, like, the rabbit hole every day. Just things like that. And I was able to go to, like, the Globe, just, like, places. and like go to like Christchurch Gardens and see like different plays and like go to the Bodleian Library and read. Like, you know, it was just like a really beautiful place. And also like as a Harry Potter fan, like I felt like I was in Hogwarts because I'm pretty sure Hogwarts was modeled after Christchurch, which is just like a college at Oxford. I forgot how many colleges Oxford has. I think maybe like 36 or something like that.
It's got
but yeah,
a lot.
it's a lot. But like, yeah, every college is different. It's like a different house. It's like in Harry Potter, they only have 4, but like at Oxford, they have like 1 million.
Well, and also you got to experience a different culture as a young person by going to Oxford.
Well, I'm Jamaican.
Yeah.
So it was very similar. It was like
right, because Jamaica is British territory.
Yeah, and like most of the black people in England are either Jamaican or African. So it was like, it's very different than like the United States, right? Where like everyone's like, you know, descended from slaves and they don't quite know where they're from. But my mom's Jamaican. And so like I'd always known I'm Jamaican. I'd always been like, you know, raised sort of like as a little Jamaican girl. And so it was cool going to another country where there were black people like me, because it was always hard to explain, you know, what sort of black person I was in America. Because people would just be like, oh, you're mixed or something, like something's going on there. But they couldn't really like fully explain who I was. And so being in the UK, it was just like everyone was like me. I didn't have to explain anything, you know? I was like one of them. And that was like really cool to be a part of for the first time ever. And so after Oxford, I actually ended up studying abroad again at London this time, because like London, there's way more black people than Oxford. Like it was very slim pickings at Oxford, but it was like London was just like filled with like people like myself. And I studied at the University of Roehampton, and I studied like theater, and theater in London is insane. Like it is very intense. It's not like theater in LA. Like I've done a bunch of theater in LA. I guess it's like more akin to New York, but it's like a lot of like innovative theater or like performance art, like devised theater, I think they call it there. And so I studied devised theater, which is like performance art. I studied like innovative fiction and like biographical theater. And I would go to like all these insane plays like in the West End. And it really opened my perspective to like what plays could be, what fiction could be. Like they just really like were pushing boundaries. And I was like, okay, this is what it's like to be an artist that doesn't really make money, basically. Like it was like a perspective I needed to have, like how you could be an artist and really like make an impact and not really make a lot of money, you know, like, cause that's important to know too. Cause some people just want to make an impact, you know, and that is like a viable career to have. You don't have to make money as an artist to be considered a successful artist. Like, and you will eventually make money. It'll just take you till you're like 40 or 50. You know what I mean? You'll be doing really weird, grungy shit when you're 20 if you want to do those weird plays, but eventually you will make money. But you will like win a Nobel Prize or something, you know, a Pulitzer for doing something super weird.
I mean, there's a shot. It doesn't happen for everyone.
I mean, it doesn't happen for everyone, but like if you are really focused on your craft and there is like an education behind what you do, like you're not just randomly doing it and you're going through things that are legitimate organizations, you know? Like if you're getting your stuff like made on West End Productions but it's like very alt still, you know, like you're having that ethos and like you can apply for grants and do stuff like that. Like you will build and grow as an artist. You just will need another job too. So it's like if you really are about that life, really about like having that weird perspective, you can do it. Just don't be afraid to do it. It just might take you a while to be like making money off of that. That's my only warning. Well, but it's possible.
And I mean, I'm picking up from you besides the besides the multi-hyphenate thing, which I was going to point out that like your degree at Alabama was multi-hyphenate already.
Yeah.
And like and then over there is that you have I mean, you just are so well rounded in that you were really interested in the arts, but then I don't know why I'm just going to call it that little American voice in the back of the mind, though. It was also like, but we need to make a living.
Yeah.
Like that's a really good balance, I think, because
it's realistic.
Some people go all in on like, I just want to make the most successful thing of all time. And I always look at those people and I go, so you don't have an idea.
No.
You just want to be successful. That's not an idea. Like,
Yeah.
I always got a kick out of people who call themselves screenwriters. And I go like, I want to write an Oscar quality film. I'm like, about what? You can't write a film.
You have to have something strong
yeah.
behind you. Yeah, you have to have a story that's beckoning to you. But yeah, I definitely consider myself very much like a scholar as much as like an artist. So for me, like I always think that education strengthens your art. Like whether you're teaching people or you're a student of it, you should always be learning. You should always be in classes. Or you're not really an artist. You're just someone that is making shit. You know, there's a difference between like making art and making shit. And so, yeah, after London, it definitely changed my perspective on things. But yeah, I found out like when I was in college that TV writers could make a living. And so I knew that that was like my focus, and I knew I would be more commercial. But London was fun. I was like, okay, maybe I can do stuff like this on the side, and maybe eventually as an artist, like I'll be able to create more weird things, you know, like on the side. I just knew it couldn't be my main after seeing how things played out and just like analyzing other people that did a lot of alt art, like how they lived their lives. It just seemed like, yeah, when I'm 40 or 50, I'll be able to make a living off the weird shit. But for now, I need to focus on being commercial. And so my last place I studied abroad ended up being at, what's it called again? The National University of Ireland at Galway. And I loved Ireland. It was really great. I studied James Joyce. And that is the epitome of an alt artist who is able to make a living off of what he did. And it was fun. I read Ulysses. I read Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. And I read a few of his other works. The only thing I didn't read was Finnegan's Wake, because that's like quite hard. Like you need like 6 people. Everyone needs to know like an additional language. I eventually want to do it. But yeah, like I think you have to always do it in a group.
You can save that for retirement.
Yeah, that's something I will do, but like it'll just be like some random class I take, I'm sure.
And you picked up on the TV writing thing. It's funny because I've known comedians throughout my life, and there's those comedians that are rogue comedians who are jealous of the people that figured out that TV writing was the way to go if you wanted to own a home.
Well, yeah, for me, I started TV writing before I started stand-up. Like, I'd always been doing improv throughout, like, since I've been 15, I've been doing improv. But, like, for me, I knew, like, TV writing should be the goal for me. So when I graduated college, I was 20, and I got a Fulbright teaching at a Turkish university. So I taught in a small town in Turkey at Izit Baysal University. And I taught English literature and English as a second language, and it was a really great experience. Turkish, I basically learned through immersion, and like it taught me a lot as a comedian because I'm always quick to say some slick shit, but it taught me how to observe, you know, like instead of talk, I was just like observing and absorbing a culture, and I really loved it. I really loved Turkey. It was a beautiful place, and yeah.
I love Turkey. I once spent a week in Istanbul.
Yeah, Istanbul's incredible.
And as you can tell, like, I fit in.
Yeah, you look Turkish for sure.
They all thought I was Turkish.
Yeah, you look Turkish.
Yeah.
They could tell I was not.
Yes.
Very immediately.
But that's also such a wonderful cosmopolitan city,
yeah.
isn't it?
Istanbul is the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life.
It is. And it's multicultural and
there's so many different people.
European.
Yeah, it's both. It's like European and it's like Asian, Middle Eastern. There's a lot going on there. I loved it. Like but I didn't live in Istanbul. Like where I lived was like a small town in between the capital Ankara and Istanbul. So I'd visit.
And Ankara is way out east, right?
It's like in the middle.
Yeah, kind of middle.
Yeah, I did go to the way east though, like Rize, where all the Turkish tea is from and stuff like that. And that was really cool because there's a second Hagia Sophia there, and I didn't know that, so I went to it. It's like kind of like ruins, but it's like very beautiful. Yeah, but yeah, the whole reason why I went to Turkey is because I wanted to see the Hagia Sophia.
That's the most beautiful place.
Yeah, I love history, you know, and I learned so much more about Turkey just being there. Like it's just like a really beautiful place. The cuisine is incredible. Yeah, I'm obsessed.
I'll add one more thing for anyone considering a visit to Turkey. It's funny.
Turkey.
I had a friend there be like, you know, we know Turkey's a dumb bird. You should call us Turkey. I'm like, Why couldn't the British get that right?
I'm dead.
Like, why did the British hear Turkey and call it Turkey? Romania's Romania. They didn't make it Romani.
I'm dead.
Yeah, right. But there's a hospitality in Turkey.
Oh,
Turkey,
yes.
right? Like
Yes.
I was actually there during an NBA strike. So there were some NBA players playing for teams in Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a game, and the guy sitting next to me picked up that I was American, even though he and I could have been cousins if you looked at our faces.
Literally.
And he literally said to me, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for being here, and I thank you for supporting our league and watching us play because you have the NBA at home. I'm like, well, the NBA is on strike. But he's like, yeah, but still. And I was annoying because for about a year after that, I'd say to everyone, so if someone was at a Laker game and there was someone from another country sitting next to them at Staples Center, not Staples anymore.
You would not say welcome to our country.
Yeah,
no.
and would you say thank you for coming to a Laker game while you're here?
No.
Why don't we consider this place our home? And if someone's visiting, they're visiting our home.
It's not a part of American culture. Like when you go to Turkey, you go to someone's house, they have slippers for you. You can't go to someone's house and they don't like feed you. They'll always have like a platter of food. They'll always have tea. At the very minimum, they will have tea for you. I just feel like the hospitality I learned in Turkey has made me a better like house like host in my house, like a better host like in general for everyone. But yeah, Turkey is incredible. And also like it also taught me how to eat because they eat to shit. Like everything is like, is this gonna help me shit or not? Am I gonna put this in my body and not shit after? And I feel like a lot of Americans could think about that before they put things in their mouths.
Hell yeah. I mean, besides that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And the older you get, I mean, you're young, but the older you get, the more you realize, was it Plato? You would know this, I bet. One of the great philosophers, Greek philosophers said like smooth functioning of the body is one of the great pleasures in life. I think it was Plato.
That is true though. That is a luxury.
Yeah.
Have a functioning body. As someone who had a dad that was in the NFL, like watching his body like break down, like that is a privilege, you know, like it is truly a privilege to have a functioning body well into like your age. Like my dream would be to be like in my 50s doing marathons, you know what I mean? Like that's the ideal scenario, being healthy and like have a functioning body and not wake up and feel like I can't get out of bed.
Huge.
Yeah.
All right, so Atlanta, then college in Alabama, then Oxford, then London, then Turkey,
Ireland. Turkey.
Galway. I've been to Galway, by the way.
Yeah,
Ireland is
it's
so
great.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's unreal. Everything looks like a postcard. It's so beautiful. Like, I am sad I didn't play golf there because I'm just like, golf would have been insane there. But yeah, the only thing I have a note about is it never got warm enough for me. Like, it was very cold in Ireland because it's pretty up north. But the food was better than England. Like, the food in England's pretty trash, I have to say.
If it's not Indian, don't eat it.
Yeah, basically. Even the Jamaican food to me was trash. I'm sure there's good Jamaican food somewhere there. I just didn't find it. Like, everything was trash, basically. Unless, I like the Sunday roast that they have at pubs.
I was going to say the pub food isn't bad. Like,
that shit's so good.
In the end, I mean, it's not good for you and it's not good for your functioning, but like fish and chips or a meat pie in a pub I can do. Yeah, when you're in England, you go to a restaurant and you're like,
I do not eat at restaurants. I eat at pubs mostly.
Yeah.
I was also like a broke student. So like if I went to a restaurant and got something nasty, I was hella upset. I was very upset.
Oh, London is such an expensive town.
Yeah, it was so expensive.
Oh my God. My ex was one of those people that wanted to go to American places when you were visiting.
No way.
I actually did go to TGI Fridays in London.
Instead of Nando's?
It was like a $90 meal to eat really bad
microwaved food.
Oh my God, terrible.
Yeah.
But then when I got to pick, we went to Indian.
Yeah, for sure. That's the move, for sure. Pubs are Indian. There's no in between. Or you could just drink. That's always valuable in London. Just drink and eat whatever.
That's how you get your wheat. Yeah.
And then eat kebab after. Even though I remember when I was in London, there was like an article that came out that like it was like 40% horse meat, those kebabs on the street.
For real?
Yeah.
I don't know. Street meat is sometimes so good.
Well, in Turkey, the street meat was amazing. My favorite was like midye, which is like clams with rice, and it was like lemony. It was like delicious. I would eat like 10 of them. But in America, there's no fucking way I would ever eat clams off the side of the street. But because Turkey takes food and like, again, like hospitality so seriously, I felt like there's no way I was going to get food poisoning there. There's no way.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So how long were you in Turkey?
A year.
A year. So
It was a long time. It was a school year. It was
and
fun.
You were teaching.
I was teaching.
Did you enjoy teaching?
It was interesting because I was the same age as my students.
Yeah.
So it was like scary. But I got over it and it was chill. And for a minute I was like, I'm never going to teach again, but I'm now going to teach again. I'm actually teaching comedy writing at UCLA next semester. And I feel like it'll be way better experience because I'm going to be older than my students. Or maybe like we'll still be the same age, but because it's like the extension program. But at least...
Yeah, UCLA extension, yeah.
Yeah, I will have like more of a separation. You know, like I will have had like lots of industry experience.
Also, you got a resume now, right? So in that room, it's funny because I think sometimes those extension courses, and God bless them, it's like, you know, it's grips and people who've like been thinking about writing, right? But they'll look at your resume and be like, I'm going to listen to this person.
Yeah, that's very helpful for me because, like, in Turkey, I had no resume. I was like, okay, I graduated college, and I guess you guys are about to. So,
but you were teaching
neck
English, and your English was damn good. Yeah, better than most.
I will say that some of the teachers that were like Turkish avoided talking to me because they could barely speak English, but were teaching English. It was like very funny. It was like, you can talk to me, girl. I can help you out. It's fine. But yeah, when I came back to America, I was like a manager at Walgreens, you know, had to make money.
Just came back to Atlanta?
Yeah, I went back to Atlanta and I was like saving up money to move to LA. And someone paid me $5,000 to like ghost write a screenplay for them. It was basically like Black Dude, Mr. Robot. And I did it. And then I moved to LA immediately. I was like, I'm done.
How'd you get that one?
Just like through a family friend.
Through a family friend
who
knew that you'd been a writer.
Yeah.
So the whole time, by the way, you were always writing?
Yeah, I was writing constantly. I was like getting published in like different publications, stuff like that. But yeah, and I had like written a novel for my English honors thesis. So yeah, that's basically.
Yeah, I guess I failed. We got so into the cultural stuff because we were both interested in that. But when did you first try screenplay format writing? Because it sounds
in
like
college.
a lot in college. So it was short stories, novelizations, maybe novels, but also so screenwriting came into your life in college.
Yeah, I wrote. My first screenwriting class was like by this dude that was a total hack. Like he somehow was able to teach at the University of Alabama by having sold a screenplay to Disney. The shit didn't get made. Just he sold it. That was it. And that was his claim to fame.
Yeah, they used to buy $500 a year back in the day. They just bought things to have a stable.
It's just insane. Like I think back on it, I'm like, why did I listen to this man in anything? But yeah.
Oh my God, I'm thinking like such an elitist jerk from California because I'm thinking, yeah, I guess being a screenwriting professor in Alabama means you didn't make it.
Definitely. But I will say that when I was studying abroad, whatever, Ava DuVernay came down to the University of Alabama and she made Selma. And she used a lot of students from the University of Alabama. And one of the teachers there, Dr. Rachel Ramis, she ended up directing an episode of Queen Sugar because she had directed like a few like docs before, like that did super well in the festival circuit. And she like, you know, was like, she went to UCLA, you know, for filmmaking and all of that stuff. So she got her life changed. And then there was another student that ended up directing an episode of Queen Sugar. I think maybe like 4 or 5 episodes of it actually. And she at first was Ava's like assistant. Her name's Sierra Glaude. And so Ava DuVernay did come to Alabama and change their lives. But I will say, because Dr. Ramis was the strongest professor there, after she left, the film department collapsed. And it does not exist anymore. It is now only communications. So it's kind of crazy to say, see like how important it is to have like legitimate people at universities like that. Because she was holding it up like Atlas, and it just collapsed with her gone. And it was like their loss. She was willing to like work remotely or like try and figure out a way to still like work there while like, you know, pursuing her dream of being a director. But they just wouldn't do it. And so now their film department has collapsed, and she has went on to direct numerous episodes of television and is now a very successful TV director.
Yeah.
And they missed out on working with someone like that could have added legitimacy to their program.
Yeah, and let her stay involved so that she could create successors, right?
Yeah.
Like she could have worked remotely and been there for the people running
Literally.
it. Yeah.
But they didn't I just think that schools like that, they're like kind of like white supremacists, you know? And because she was like a woman of color, she was like Latina, they just didn't respect her enough.
That checks
and
out.
It was just like a weird thing like that. Because I remember I was in like a film honor society, and this is how I met her. And this dude was like sexually harassing me. Like he was just like really mean to me because I wouldn't date him. And he would like, they wanted to like film something. And I was like, I had just gotten a DSLR. And he was like, I want footage of like, you have to prove to me like your DSLR is good enough. I'm like, just Google it then. This is the specs. You can Google it. He's like, no, give me some of the things you shot. And like, because I was a freshman, I was like kind of insecure by the things I shot. So as a joke, I just sent him a random dick picture.
He had that coming. That was a good move.
He had
By the way,
that
that's also the
coming.
comedian in you, right? That's your
like,
wit.
Fuck you.
That is a great fuck you.
And they kicked me out of the Film Honor Society. And her and like one other woman that was like black in the film department found out what happened. And they advocated for me. Like they found out, they like asked me to come to their offices, and I talked to them both, and they were there for me and advocated for me as an artist. And it's like, I look back at that time and it's like, no one in that Film Honor Society is in Hollywood. I'm the only one that's there. I'm the success. Like, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I'm in the Writers Guild. I'm in the Animation Guild. Like, I've actually done things with my career. These people were just like white dudes that you thought would become good filmmakers just because they were white dudes. Like, it's just crazy to me. It was just like, they had nothing to back it up. And it was just like, and also at the time, like I was a National Merit Scholar. So like Alabama had paid me to be there. So it was like, I already had more ethos than them, and they decided to side with them. But I think at the end of the day, stuff like that made me realize like not to put a lot into like certain people's perspectives of me. Because when I was able to actually go to Hollywood, like it was fine because my work was all that people cared about. They didn't care about my skin color, you know? Like, people say that Hollywood is racist, but I'm like, it's not as racist as the real world. It just is not.
I'm glad you said it, because, I mean, a lot of the racism in Hollywood is Hollywood bending to commercial forces, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're making entertainment for a society with a nice big fat chunk of racism in it, I mean, I don't think that's a controversial statement, then they're like, oh, we're worried if we, you know,
but as a
if
writer,
we make a mermaid black, we're going to piss off, you know, they used to be afraid to do that just because they knew they'd lose a lot of audience.
But as a writer, you don't really have like a face. So people literally don't care what you look like as long as you have a good script.
Yeah.
And that's how it should have been.
Which is amazing to hear that there's meritocracy.
Yeah, there is a complete meritocracy when it comes to that. And like you could like, I prefer to work on black projects. So that's just like my preference. But I could choose to like write a white protagonist or whatever and like try and work on white projects. And I feel like people wouldn't blink an eye. They would accept it, you know? And I feel like that's like something that in other parts of writing, you don't get that luxury. Like, as someone that's like been trying to publish like novels and stuff like that, it is so much more white supremacist than Hollywood. It's insane to me. It's like they live in this white delusional bubble where they like have quotas for every single Black story, and Hollywood simply doesn't have that. They're looking for a good story, and they might take your Black story and be like, can you try and make it white? And if you say no, they will be like, okay, cool, we won't. You know, it's not like they'll just reject it just because they're like, oh, we have our 5 Black novels. Like, you know what? It's very different. But yeah, when I moved to LA, it was like really fun, you know, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't read any screenwriting books, anything like that. I just thought I could move. Like, I knew I was a good writer. And so basically I moved here and I became a copywriter. And I just thought, like, if I walked around telling
people... So, like, you got here and you just started hitting classified ads that related to writing?
No, I was a copywriter.
Oh, well, I was just curious how you got the copywriting gig.
I was a freelance copywriter beforehand, and then I was able to get, like, a full-time job copywriting. But it was, like, very low pay. It was, like, I wrote 5,000 words a day for $500 a week. And it was, like... Yeah, it was insane. But like I thought, like if I walked around LA and told people I was a professional writer, that I would just get my own TV show somehow. That's not how it works. But I eventually started, like, I realized I needed to become an assistant. And so I became an assistant on the Fox lot. I was like a floater. Before then, I worked for Jared Leto. And that was a really cool experience. It let me know I didn't want to work in the music industry because I worked specifically for 30 Seconds to Mars, his band, and like a few other like vanity projects he had going on, and like his performance at the VMAs with Travis Scott. And that was a really interesting experience, you know, like working for someone like super powerful like him, who's good with his money and like had a production company, had a touring company. And yeah, I really enjoyed working for him. He was really nice. My only complaint was that everything we ate was vegan. I was just like, I'm sick of this shit. But there's a reason why he looks so ageless, is because he eats correctly.
I'm just curious, when you figured something out that I know a lot of people, it takes them forever to figure out, which is starting out as an assistant is great. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people are like, I don't want to be an assistant.
But I was like 22, so I was just like, let me get in where I fit in.
Right.
Like I feel like it's different. Like when people come in their late 20s, early 30s, and it's like, okay, go work at CAA and wear a suit and answer phones. It's like, what? Like I was doing something completely different than that, you know? Like it's hard for people to wrap their head around it, or they have a certain lifestyle, you know, like that they're accustomed to, and that they also view like you should have in Hollywood as well. It's like, maybe don't drive a BMW. Maybe just drive like a fucking normal ass car.
A lot of people put up a front.
Yeah, it's like annoying. It's like, if you want a PA job, don't come up like in a luxury car, you know? Maybe a Buick's okay, but like, you know, or a Subaru, but like nothing too flashy. Just like be real, because it's like so many people just drive normal cars. They're like millionaires in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because they don't feel like they have to front.
Yeah, you don't need to front. Like, what's the point? And also, like, why spend a lot of money on like something that you don't quite, that's not going to really give you a return, you know? I think that's like the perspective that most people have. Also, like if you have kids, like you want to put them through private school, are you going to spend like $100,000 on a car? Are you going to, that's like a year of private school or like a couple years of private school. Like why? What are you doing? Like,
I had a buddy at one of those financial management companies that would manage Hollywood people's lives, and he would hang out with me at night and go like, so there's famous people making, you know, whatever, $7 million a year on a sitcom, and they're not making ends meet because they're spending more than they make. And he's like, it's all a front. They don't own anything. They're leasing. They're in debt. He's like, we think they're rich, but they're in debt because of their lifestyle.
Yeah, that's insane to me. Like, I never lived like that. I always lived exactly what it seemed like, or lower than that, because I feel like that's how you have to survive. Also, I'm a writer. Like, why am I trying to be flashy? You know, like, who am I trying to fool? That's crazy. So, yeah, I was okay being an assistant. And, like, it didn't pay amazing, but I was able to, like, make a living, you know? And yeah, so I worked for Jared Leto, and then I ended up being a floater on the Fox lot on different desks. And then like I was able to get into a TV writer's room through a novel, my English honors thesis. Someone sent it to CAA. I was in Time's Up at the time, and I think they sent a bunch of like materials of women to CAA just to like infuse the industry with more women. And someone read it there, and they were like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, at this point, like I don't really have like a strong like, because basically what people don't understand is if you have like a short script, like I had like a short script, but if you don't have a feature or a pilot, people can't do anything with that shit. People literally can't. Maybe they can do something with a short story, but that's it. Like now short stories have been able to sell, but other than that, like...
Because they can be adapted to something.
It's useless, you know? So for me, I just think that I was down for whatever because I realized that I needed to write a screenplay pretty quickly. And so they were like, so what do you want to do? Like, they were like, you should turn this book into a script. And I was like, okay, I'll work on that. But like, I'm also interested in assistant positions in writer's room specifically.
Yeah,
and
because the assistant in a writer's room, a writer's assistant, that is the stepping stone.
Well, here's the gag. Being a writer's assistant is hard. Like, I wouldn't want to do that job. I was okay being a writer's PA. And a writer's PA is like way easier. Like, so my first job in a writer's room, I was a writer's PA, and I got people's lunches, and I handled that office. That's all I had to do. And then the rest of the time I could write. So I wrote 2 screenplays in that time. I wrote a spec, and I was able to write like a original. And I was able to get a manager from writing a script and just being in a writer's room. Writer's assistants, all they do is take notes all day. They don't have time really that much to like write off to the side, like maybe after work. So for me, a writer's assistant job really wasn't like appealing. But I was really happy to like have any job in the room. I'm just happy they didn't make me writer's assistant. But also I just didn't have the resume to be a writer's assistant. Because even though like usually people that are writer's assistants have been like in an agency for a minute, or they were a writer's PA, showrunner assistant, then they became a writer's assistant. There's like a hierarchy. Or like they were like a development assistant, you know? They had to have some note-taking skills, which I had none. So I was a writer's PA, and it was on the show on the History Channel called Nightfall. It was about the Knights of Templar. It got canceled, but it was a great experience. All the writers were super nice. The showrunner, Aaron Helbing, was like very like kind and generous with teaching me how to like be a writer and allowing me to go on meetings like for managers and stuff like that. And yeah, I got my first manager, and it was really, you know, I really grew as a writer from just like being in a writer's room. And I went on to like work on a bunch of different like shows, like as an assistant. And then when I wasn't in a writer's room as an assistant, I would work on true crime shows as a producer. So I started out like being a researcher on like scripted shows. So I was like a researcher on The Terror on AMC. And because of those skills that I used for researching, I was able to like work in true crime because you needed heavy research skills for that. Also, me being a Fulbright scholar, that was an indicator that I was a really strong researcher. And so I worked on like 3 true crime shows. I worked on Murdered by Morning on Oxygen, For My Man on TV1, and Twisted Sisters on Investigation Discovery. And then, I got sick of being an assistant pretty quickly. Like, maybe after like 2 years, I wanted to like die. Like, I was like, this is horrible. And I started stacking assistant jobs. Like, I would be like a director's assistant while also being like a showrunner's assistant. And just like stack them at the same time while also like being a random temp whenever someone needed me.
Is that because it was too boring for you?
It's because I was really good at it and I needed money. And so I just wanted to like have savings, you know? And so I made like a pilot called Crystal and Chelsea, an independent pilot. I produced it and I wrote it and I starred in it, but I didn't direct it. And I did a GoFundMe for it, or like a Kickstarter for it, and I got the money for it. And like my biggest donor was like Dan O'Shannon, who was like a writer on Modern Family. Oh, I forgot to also say, I was a TA for the NBC Writing Fellowship as well while I was in TV writers' rooms as an assistant. And that also helped me learn how to write an irrefutable pilot. Like, because like there's certain things that you should be hitting as a writer that a lot of people don't know. They just think that they can read Save the Cat and they'll be good. But there's certain things that execs expect. And like it gave me a perspective on that and taught me how to write something really tight, airtight, you know? And I feel very grateful to Jen Grisanti for allowing me to learn under her. But I did that up until I got staffed. But yeah, so I made this independent pilot and I really was like at wit's end. I was like, I cannot be an assistant anymore. This is crazy. Like maybe this will help me break through. And, as I was making it like a week before production, I was like an assistant on the Upshaws and someone at Netflix, because Upshaws is a Netflix show. One of my friends at Netflix who was at CAA before, she was just like, I think there's a show that's going to be perfect for you. It's about Jamie Foxx and his daughter. I'm going to submit you for it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. People always submit me for shit because like I've been an assistant for so long. And yeah, I ended up getting a showrunner meeting interview. And like I thought of like 5 episode ideas like in the car on the way there. And I pitched them to them. And yeah, they hired me. And they like one of the episode ideas that I pitched was it was the first episode that Netflix wanted to make. And I felt very lucky, I was able to get staffed and it sort of changed my career trajectory, for sure. Cause I was just able to be like a writer, and like, I love writing, it's really fun. But yeah, I continued like, being a staff writer on different shows. And then I ended up like, I got frustrated again because like being the youngest female writer is kind of annoying, like
people treat you differently.
Yeah. It's like a boys' club. Like writing is a very male dominated field. And even if you are like exactly the protagonist and they need your voice, they will still diminish you. I don't know how else to say it. So it was like annoying. And so I was like, you know what? I think I should be like a writer director. Like, I think that's what I should focus on, like trying to be an auteur to like just be alone. I know I have good instincts. I know how to write what people want. And so that's why I wrote the feature version of The Island, and I was able to get like a private financing for the short version, and I was able to make it. And that's the whole reason why I did it, because I wanted to be taken more seriously as like a writer director. And I feel like it really has opened a lot of doors for me. Honestly, more on the acting side, because like making a feature is really hard. Making a feature is really, really hard. So it's like still a process.
It's a huge budget, right?
Yeah,
so.
It's not a huge budget, but like it's
I just mean like a feature is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but a TV show is a lot of money too when you ask for money for a
true.
TV show. And so, yeah, TV shows actually are more money because it's like you want millions per episode.
Yeah,
like, so
you're talking
like
about
if you have 10
30 episodes.
Yeah, if you have like 10 episodes, $2 million each, that's like $20 million versus like The Island. I think it's like 6 to 10 million film. It can maybe go up to 15 because I like whatever. But yeah, it's just like a different perspective on things. Films, people will love to give you just like a lump sum of money and make something that will infinitely be made over and over again. TV is a little bit more risk because who knows if it'll be able to continue to get distribution, and engage people. And so for me, like I have been pitching it, whatever, like the feature version of The Island, but also like I feel like it has helped me a lot as an actor. Like I recently got cast in a film like last month. I was in a feature that Maddie Matheson produced. It's like a biker film. But yeah, it's like kind of interesting like how much like if you put yourself in a film that does well on the festival circuit, people will find you. Like I've probably been in like 5 or 6 films that people have just found me from the festival circuit, which is crazy to think about.
So they saw The Island and they said,
can you be in my film? Yeah, can you be in my film? Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it's like I didn't do it for the purpose of like, becoming like a more serious actor. I just knew that I could act and I enjoyed it or whatever. but it definitely helped me act way more. So it's like if you're an actor and you're not booking, I feel like maybe that's a good perspective, you know, to like make something that shows that you're good at acting. You know, it's a great way in. Stand up also helps too. Like I do a lot of stand up, and I feel like people cast me off of my stand up like reels, which is so interesting because I'm just trying to be funny, get steam off. Like I started comedy because, again, like in the writer's room, there was like annoying and like, but they need my jokes, right? Like I'm always like the joke machine. Like I'm constantly giving like jokes for each character. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write jokes for myself. That seems way more fun. So I started doing that. And yeah, like again, if you want to be a performer, it's like very helpful for that. Because I've been cast on a few things just based off of like my comedy, and people just take you more seriously as a performer because if you're performing all of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so. I mean, I could imagine some people would have some sour grapes about your getting cast so much, but proofs in.
I didn't
right?
really.
Yeah, you weren't pursuing it.
Yeah.
But like now, do you have like acting agents? Like, are you focused on that, or no? You still the focus is writing and directing.
Yeah. Because I can cast myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting cast in things puts you in like weird positions sometimes. Like last year, I got cast in a feature, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I just quit it because the director was talking to me crazy.
You will never regret that one. I mean, when your gut is telling you to quit. Quitting is such a good move.
Yeah, no, I felt great. Like my agents got upset with me. They're like, "This is bad for you, like to like quit." And I'm like, what is he gonna do? If he treats people like that, he's not gonna go far. Like, what good actress wants to work with someone like him? Like, but yeah, I was like, you can't talk to me crazy. Like, maybe if you were like Tarantino, you could like slap me around verbally, but you're not. And he wouldn't. Like, that's the thing. Like, all these great directors, they wouldn't. You know, only like weird ass Alfred Hitchcock would do that, and he's dead.
And the era that era's over.
Yeah.
Right. Like at this point, if you're an indecent human being, it's a blockade, right? Finally, it's a deficit. Like they used to think, oh, that makes some. I mean, I guess it's mostly men, but some men think like being a hard ass whatever proves that they should be in charge.
Not
and
as
like
a director.
the world is over you now.
Yeah, well, not as a director. People are supposed to be loosey goosey and ready to fucking be another character. If you're going around bullying people, you're ruining the vibe of the set. And sets are long, you know? No one wants to be around an asshole for 12 hours, you know? Like, how long does it take a movie to shoot? Like 6 weeks, 12-hour days, and you want to be around a fucking bully? Like, no, thank you. You want to be around someone that's considerate, that thinks, that strategizes, that views themselves as one of the people. And so, yeah, I would rather cast myself than deal with an asshole.
And film is so collaborative, exactly. Like,
yeah.
Like the best idea on the set should win. It shouldn't just be, yeah, I mean, I don't know. One of my favorite stories is John Cleese of Monty Python when he made that film, A Fish Called Wanda. Like they were struggling for a line, and I think a gaffer threw out a line, and he said, "That's hilarious. We're using that." Like he didn't care. It wasn't like I wrote this film and I will write this line. No.
If you need a
the
joke,
best idea wins.
Yeah, if you need a joke alt, you need a joke alt. It doesn't matter who it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so it sounds like you probably enjoy directing.
Yeah, I love directing. I love like making sure that things look perfect and that people feel confident, you know, in their performance. Like that's really important to me. And also like when I direct something, I know that it's going to look the way I want it to look. And I'm someone that really cares about aesthetics. I really care about the way that things look. And that's always been like something that people have always viewed as negative about me. They're like, you're so girly. Why do you always care about the way that things look? But as a director, that is like supreme. If you don't care about how things look, then why are you here?
It's a visual medium.
Yeah. So I love that is like a strength, you know, as a director. Because, like, as a writer, you're just supposed to be, like, a slob, you know? And it's just like, oh, the director will figure it out. Like, no, I want to figure it out.
But you pay attention to the visual and what's on screen, but also you clearly care about performances because like everyone's performance in The Island is great.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen if the director isn't encouraging
well, I
people.
set the tone for it because I tried to be funny with the directing because I wanted them to be funnier than me. So I was like really funny in all of my direction. I also chose everyone's outfits. I like was very like adamant about how I wanted things to look, and to the point where I was able to translate it to everyone. I really believe in like having strong lookbooks, like having the colors you want chosen. Like I feel like this is like obvious to some, but some people they just really want to do everything off the cuff, and I think that's fucking lame. Everything should be obviously so pre-planned that like no one is confused by what we should do. No one should be confused what shot we should do next. Like if we know that we can't make a certain shot, like what's our go-to backup shot? You know, what's on the mood board that we can do that's simple? You know, that I've already put up for everyone to see. You know, what are the comps I've already given everyone? Like every shot that I have in my lookbook, I have 3 comps. So they know what they can do. You know, they know who to reference, and you've just at least seen one of those movies. You know, so I think being as clear as possible. And I honestly learned that from working on historical dramas, like because you have such large crew and you want it to be historically accurate, you have to make these really intense lookbooks that everyone can communicate with and understand. And I knew going into directing that I didn't want there to be any confusion on the day on set. And a part of that is just like having a strong lookbook, letting everyone know what you want things to look like, and there being no like confusion in that. We all have discussed this. We all know what we want.
Fantastic. And I mean, just to add, and caring so much about the costuming, right? That's also communicating to the actor who they are, right?
Yeah.
Because the clothes clothes do kind of define us.
I talk to the actors about their clothes, each individually, what they like, what their vibe was, what they thought that they should be wearing, like what would make them comfortable. Because I don't want to put anyone in anything where they're like, this is too revealing, or this like isn't like what I think makes me looks flattering on me. Because, you know, I had like lots of different body types in that movie too. So like being able to talk about that and make everyone look beautiful was really important to me. Like I'm not someone that likes to make my actors look bad, you know? Like I'm very much like old school when it comes to that. Like I love old school movies where it's like, oh yeah, Givenchy dressed everyone, you know? So I want it to look like that. I want people to feel proud of what they're in and are not distracted by how they look. Like I don't want them to be fucking worried about hair and makeup, you know, stupid shit like that. Like, you know, they just need to focus on their performance.
Absolutely. And it worked at every level.
Thank you.
And the rad thing is it got you a lot of work after the fact that you weren't even intending.
Yeah.
And
it got distribution, you know, which is ideal. Like, I feel like it's a sign of like having a valuable product if people want to add it to their platforms, if they're willing to pay for it to be there, you know?
Absolutely. And anything else brewing? I mean, you're always... well, the one thing we didn't cover too much is your stand-up.
Yeah. I'm performing at the Comedy Store on November the 14th at 10:30 p.m. in the Belly Room at Crack 'em Up Thursdays.
I was going to say Crack 'em Up.
Yeah, I love
My
Crack 'em
friend
Up.
takes me to Crack 'em Up
Yeah.
like every month or two.
Yeah, it's fun. That's my favorite show that I do in LA. I perform all over LA. You can check out my dates at The Witty Girl on Instagram. I feel like that's the easiest way. Up next, I'm trying to make another proof of concept, but we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully I don't have to do that and I can just sell the feature, because I'm okay not directing it, because this one is expensive. It is very expensive, and I know they won't let me direct it. No one's going to give me $50 million. I'm honest with myself. I can be real with myself.
That's a strength.
I think that people should also understand, like, not everything has to be cheap. Like when I first went into like trying to pitch the island, I was like, well, this is going to be cheap. And people don't like that. Like there's a production company for every budget. And if you're at like Monkey Paw, you don't have to tell them it's going to be cheap. You know what I mean? You can tell them the true budget because they can find it. And it might be still too low for them, you know? Like they are used to making bigger films at this point, you know? So it's just like be honest with your budget and say what you actually need. And maybe it might take away from you being able to direct it. But at the end of the day, Tarantino was not able to direct the first film he wrote.
No, and and I actually do know writers who've written like a low budget thing, intending just to sort of make it with some spare change of their own, but it turns out well enough that they show it to people, and they hear a lot of I hear all the time like so and so love my script, but they're looking for something in the $2 to $3 million range, and this is a $300,000 script at best, and there's no way. I'm like, is there a way for you to make it more expensive? They're like, no. I wrote a one-room script.
You can make a script too cheap.
Yeah.
And I learned that. Like, so I just tell them the truth. I'm like, it's not cheap. Or you can find ways to make it more expensive. Just think about it. Because at first I was pitching the island as like 2 to 5. And now to me, I'm like, it could be 6 to 15, you know, depending on how you want to slice it.
And hey, you're in a fantastic genre with that because horror comedy, so good.
Yeah, I agree.
I've always been. I might have even said this at one of your Q&As, but it's just so. I love both those genres because they're the involuntary, the laugh and the scare are both involuntary reactions, you know, and they just go together perfectly.
Thank you.
Hey. All right. Well, should we? You want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Well, you've already mentioned @TheWittyGirl for people to follow for you. So I guess that means I'm going to try to do my closing spiel really fast. Because I don't know. I think I've gotten good at this. Hey, everybody. That was Camille Corbett. You should. You want to tell them where to watch The Island again?
You can watch The Island on YouTube @TheWittyGirl, and you can also find all of my stand-up, like everything that I'm working on @TheWittyGirl on Instagram and Twitter.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're good on social media. I'll say that as someone.
Thank you.
Like, I guess it's been almost a year since last year's Sherman Oaks. Yeah. All right. So, thank you for listening to the Discover Indie Film Podcast. If you want to learn more about this podcast, or a little TV series that was born from it, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always @DIFwins. I met Camille at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. We hold that every December. You can learn more at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's @ShermanOaksFF on social media. In fact, this week we're ironing out the schedule. More films, 52 films in 4 days on 2 screens at the theater, and they're all fucking great. What can I say? All right. And then every June, there's a sister festival called Film Invasion Los Angeles. You can learn more at filminvasionla.com, and it's @filminvasionla on social media. And the last thing to mention is go to indiechannel.tv or download the Indie Channel on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Android TV, or your smartphone. That's an indie film-focused streamer. All right. Camille, thank you so much. Love your story. Mm-hmm. And thank you, everyone, for listening.